Florida is the Sunshine State, America's playground, a weird and wonderful mix of travel, paradise, and chaos, a place hot, humid, and full of surprises. Florida sticks out into the ocean like a peninsula-shaped exclamation point between the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of America. It's the third most populous state, home to over 22 million people. And tourists? 140 million visit every year, more than 6 times the population. But Florida is more than just beaches and theme parks. It's where Spanish explorers first set foot in North America, where astronauts launch into space, where the oldest U.S. city still stands, and the only place on Earth where crocodiles and alligators live side by side. So, grab your sunscreen, watch out for sinkholes, and let's explore the wild, beautiful, and completely unpredictable state of Florida. Miami is an unnatural masterpiece, a city built where nature never intended, a humid, hurricane-prone, swamp-ridden piece of land thrust into prominence by human ambition. Who made it happen? A woman, Julia Tuttle, the only woman to ever found a major U.S. city. She convinced Henry Flagler to bring his Florida East Coast Railway down south, and boom, Miami was on the map. The city itself is hot, humid, and sometimes a little dangerous. The hurricane season keeps things interesting. Over 26 million visitors flood Miami every year. Most of them fly into Miami International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the country, handling over 50 million passengers annually. They come for the Florida sun, the clubs, the chaos, and Miami delivers. The city doesn't sleep. Nightlife here isn't just entertainment, it's an extreme sport. The party starts late and ends when the sun makes its way over Florida's horizon. And yet, the real magic of Miami nights isn't just in the mega clubs. It's in the dive bars of Little Haiti, the rooftop lounges of Brickell, the backyard reggaeton parties that rage until neighbors give up calling the cops. Nearly 2.7 million people live in Miami-Dade County. Over 70% of residents speak a language other than English. Spanish dominates thanks to a massive Latin American influence. Little Havana is nostalgia wrapped in tropical heat of Florida. It is a piece of Cuba preserved in exile, a neighborhood where history is alive in every cafecito poured, every cigar rolled, every bolero drifting from a dusty radio. As you walk down Calle Ocho, you'll see murals of Cuban heroes, hear the slap of dominoes on wooden tables, and smell the intoxicating blend of strong coffee. Brickell, once quiet, now gleams with penthouses, rooftop pools, and the scent of power lunches. The skyline here is the third tallest in America after New York and Chicago. The city reinvents itself constantly, demolishing its past with the same energy it uses to celebrate it. South Beach is iconic. The pastel dreamscape of the Art Deco Historic District, soft white sand, lifeguard towers painted like candy, water so warm it feels surreal. Mornings are for quiet swims and jogs along the shore. Afternoons are for sunbathing, for people watching, for the endless parade of influencers and fitness fanatics. At night, neon flickers to life and DJs take over. But beneath the neon, beyond the glamour, Miami has shadows. Gentrification displaces communities even as it revitalizes. Climate change threatens from below and above. The fantasy of wealth, beauty, perfection, the pressure to perform, to succeed. Not everyone makes it. Not everyone stays. The city is a dream and a mirage, offering everything but guaranteeing nothing. Bridges stretch out like veins from the heart of Miami, gripping the sea, pulling you toward the Florida Keys, a scattered string of tropical jewels hanging off the tip of Florida, daring you to chase the horizon. This is the Overseas Highway, a masterpiece of engineering and a direct invitation to drive straight into the heart of the tropics. Yes, that's right, bridges, lots of them. 42 to be exact, including the famous 7-mile bridge, which, fun fact, is not actually 7 miles long anymore. The Florida Keys stretch roughly 120 miles and are divided into the Upper, Middle, and Lower Keys. Key Largo, the grand entrance, is the largest and closest to Miami. It's famous for the John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park, the first underwater park in the United States. Keep heading south, and the Middle Keys introduce you to Marathon, a town that might as well be renamed Fishing Central. If deep-sea fishing is your thing, this is your paradise. Then the Lower Keys, less developed, more wild, and even lazier than the rest. And finally, Key West, the end of the line, the southernmost city in the continental United States, just 90 miles from Cuba, closer to Havana than to Miami. Key West has an atmosphere that can only be described as controlled chaos. It takes its weirdness seriously. So seriously, in fact, that in 1982, it seceded from the United States, declaring itself the Conch Republic in a protest against a Border Patrol checkpoint. The streets are lined with pastel-hued conch houses. Hemingway lived here, which means every bar claims some connection to him, whether legitimate or not. Mallory Square is where the party happens every sunset. Tourists gather, street performers juggle fire, and the sky puts on a show that makes you believe in magic. Then there's Duval Street, a mile-long stretch of bars, shops, and general revelry. If you don't leave Key West with at least one ridiculous story, you did it wrong. The Key West Cemetery, with headstones that say things like, "I told you I was sick," embodies the local humor. Now, back to the mainland. The Everglades is a subtropical wetland spanning 1.5 million acres of South Florida. It is the slowest moving river in the world, crawling southward at a very lazy pace. First things first, getting to the Everglades is easy, sort of. If you're flying in, you'll likely land in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, both of which have easy access to the park. From there, the roads start to narrow, the signs warn about panthers, and the air gets thick enough to drink. There are multiple entrances to the Everglades National Park, but the main ones are Shark Valley for biking and tram tours, Flamingo for boating and bird watching, and the Ernest F. Coe Visitor Center for trails and general exploration. Pick your poison. Airboat tours are one of the most popular activities here, and for good reason. They're fast, loud, and slightly dangerous. For those who enjoy getting up close and personal with nature, there are plenty of trails to hike and bike. Shark Valley has a famous 15-mile loop which you can bike or tram through. Now, let's talk about the very real dangers of the Everglades, because this isn't some sanitized theme park. This is nature in its truest form that doesn't care about your comfort. Alligators are everywhere. No, they don't usually attack humans, but if you think feeding them is a fun idea, congratulations, you've just signed up for a Darwin Award. Respect their space and don't dangle your feet in the water. But forget gators, forget snakes. The real dread of the Everglades are the mosquitoes. Clouds of them, swarming and biting. Even with industrial-strength bug spray, you will lose. You should wear long sleeves, a hat, and possibly a beekeeper suit if you can find one. Naples sits just west of the Everglades on Florida's Gulf Coast. The city itself is relatively compact, but its influence stretches far beyond. Naples is a dream for retirees, a playground for the wealthy, and a surprisingly delightful destination for the mere mortals who manage to visit. First things first, you need to actually get to Naples. If you're flying in, you'll probably land at Southwest Florida International Airport in Fort Myers, about 40 minutes north. From there, it's a traffic-ridden drive down Interstate 75. If you're coming from Miami, brace yourself for Alligator Alley, a long, swampy stretch of road where your only companions are gators and the occasional speeding Maserati. Once in Naples, you'll quickly realize something. This place is immaculate. The roads are wide and lined with palm trees. Naples is famous for its beaches. They are, in a word, stunning. Sugar white sand, impossibly clear water, and an atmosphere of almost perfect serenity. The most famous is Naples Beach, home to the iconic Naples Pier. But Naples isn't just about the beach life. The city is packed with things to do, especially if you enjoy the finer things in life like shopping. Fifth Avenue South and 3rd Street South are Naples' answer to Rodeo Drive. high-end shopping and restaurants where a salad costs as much as your phone bill. Naples takes golf very seriously. There are over 90 courses. If you don't play golf, don't worry, just pretend you do. Some of the top courses are Tiburon Golf Club, which is home to PGA events, and Naples Grand Golf Club. Tampa is a city that's part beach paradise, part urban sprawl, and entirely underrated. The city's modern boom didn't happen until the late 19th century thanks to Henry B. Plant and his glorious railroad system. Then came cigars. Yes, cigars. Ybor City, once known as the cigar capital of the world, was packed with Cuban, Spanish, and Italian immigrants hand-rolling their way to success. Today, Tampa is home to around 400,000 people still trying to prove it belongs in the big leagues of American cities. It has beaches, history, theme parks, nightlife, and some of the best Cuban sandwiches. Tampa's beaches are stunning, and no, they are not in Tampa proper. You'll need to hop over to Clearwater Beach or St. Pete Beach, both of which are about 30 to 45 minutes away. Powdery white sand, crystal clear waters, it's beautiful, it's Florida, it's everything you signed up for. You thought Orlando had the monopoly on theme parks? Wrong. Busch Gardens is what you get when you mix a zoo with roller coasters. You get cheetahs, elephants, and some of the most terrifying rides in the country. Ybor is Tampa's historic district. It has brick streets, iron balconies, and a vibe that's equal parts Cuban, Spanish, and modern hipster. At night, it turns into a chaotic mess of bars, live music, and occasional rooster sightings. The Riverwalk is exactly what it sounds like, a beautiful, well-maintained pathway along the Hillsborough River. It connects museums, parks, and restaurants, just perfect for tourists who want to explore without actually committing to too much effort. If you're the type of traveler who loves staring at marine life through thick glass, Tampa's Florida Aquarium is your jam. Sharks, stingrays, and even a coral reef ecosystem are on display. Tampa is weird. It's a mix of snowbirds, college students, families, and retirees who have all somehow ended up in the same place. A city that's constantly evolving, full of people who will passionately defend its greatness even if they secretly wish it had a bit more going on. It has everything a traveler could want without the overwhelming crowds or the exhausting tourism machine of other Florida cities. So if you're still sleeping on Tampa, wake up. It's worth the trip. Orlando is a city that practically screams tourist trap at the top of its lungs. It's a place where childhood dreams are mass-produced and monetized, where fantasy meets corporate dominance, and where somehow you still find yourself having an absolutely incredible time. Nestled in the very heart of the Sunshine State, Orlando isn't on the coast. No ocean breezes, no nice beaches. Instead, it's a landlocked metropolis built on swampland. The city itself has a population of around 320,000, but let's be honest, those numbers mean absolutely nothing when you factor in the 75 million tourists who swarm through annually. It has a large Puerto Rican population and a vibrant Vietnamese district. Orlando's nickname is the City Beautiful, which is a bit optimistic considering it's a concrete jungle in some places, but Lake Eola Park in downtown does put up a good fight for the title. Orlando's history isn't exactly the most thrilling tale ever told. Before the mouse arrived, it was a quiet, swampy backwater known for cattle farming and citrus groves. Then, in 1971, Disney came and transformed the region into a theme park mecca. After that, Universal, SeaWorld, and 1,000 off-brand attractions followed, ensuring that Orlando would forever be synonymous with theme park overload. Walt Disney World isn't just an amusement park, it's a cultural phenomenon, a money-printing machine, and a masterclass in brand loyalty. It spans nearly 25,000 acres. That's bigger than some actual cities. Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, each park a universe for itself. Disney does magic like no one else. Fireworks that make you feel emotions you didn't know you had. Rides that transport you to different worlds. It's corporate joy, but it's still joy. When Universal Studios Florida opened in 1990, it followed the concept of its Hollywood counterpart, a working film studio with behind-the-scenes attractions. But people don't come to Florida for studio tours, they come for rides, and Universal quickly adapted. Over the years, the park evolved from a movie-themed experience into a full-fledged action-packed amusement park, complete with cutting-edge technology, jaw-dropping coasters, and some of the best themed lands in the world. If you're flying in, Orlando International Airport is your main gateway. It's one of the busiest airports in the United States. For budget travelers, Orlando Sanford International Airport offers flights from low-cost carriers. It's smaller and less chaotic, but farther from the city's main attractions. We have to talk about Florida's state flag. At first glance, you might think someone took Alabama's flag, spilled coffee on it, then panicked and slapped a state seal in the middle to cover the stain. The design features a red St. Andrew's cross on a white field with the state seal awkwardly crammed into the center. And what a seal it is! It includes a Seminole woman, historically inaccurate, but let's not nitpick, a steamboat that may or may not have ever existed, and a sun that looks like it's desperately trying to escape. But the real kicker? That big red X is suspiciously similar to the Spanish Cross of Burgundy, a flag Spain used when it ruled Florida. So, intentionally or not, Florida's flag looks like it's still under Spanish influence. The Kennedy Space Center is not in Orlando. Let's just get that out of the way. If you booked your flight and thought, oh, it's right next to Disney World, you are sadly mistaken. It's about 45 minutes east on Merritt Island. Before it became the epicenter of space exploration, Merritt Island was just another stretch of Florida wilderness. Then, in 1962, the government decided that launching humans to the moon required a bit more infrastructure than a beachside shack, so they established the Kennedy Space Center. It became the launching ground for the Apollo missions, including the legendary Apollo 11 in 1969. During the shuttle era, Kennedy was the home of the Space Shuttle program, with 135 missions launching from its iconic pads. Tragedy struck twice, first with Challenger in 1986 and then Columbia in 2003. But NASA pressed on, continuously innovating and refining its approach to human spaceflight. All right, let's talk money. Because nothing in this life is free, especially not the chance to stand where Neil Armstrong once probably sneezed. General admission costs around $75 per adult and $65 for kids. Even children need to pay to dream. You can splurge on the astronaut training experience for about $175 per person, which lets you pretend you're about to be shot into orbit. Parking is an extra $10 to $15 because why not? Daytona Beach is on Florida's east coast, about an hour northeast of Orlando. It's a mix of old-school Florida charm and high-energy entertainment. It's one of the state's most famous beach towns, but whether it's the right destination for you depends on your travel style. Daytona has a bit of a party reputation, especially during spring break and bike week. The water here can be a bit rougher than on Florida's Gulf Coast, which is better for surfing than for calm swimming. The 23-mile stretch of sand is wide, flat, and firm. It's perfect for walking, biking, and yes, even driving. Some areas allow cars on the beach, which is a unique experience, but also means you're sharing the sand with vehicles. Speaking of vehicles, Daytona Beach is also home to the Daytona 500, one of the biggest NASCAR races. So if you're into motorsports, it's a must-visit. Even if you're not interested in watching a bunch of guys making left turns for hours, the Speedway is iconic. Tours are available, and during race season, the energy is unreal. Just south of Daytona, the historic Ponce Lighthouse, which is also Florida's tallest, offers great views and a quieter, more scenic side of the area. St. Augustine is the nation's oldest city, a place dripping with history soaked in Spanish influence and absolutely overrun with tourists. The city sits on Florida's northeastern coast, about 40 miles south of Jacksonville and roughly 100 miles from Orlando, far enough from the chaos of Disney, yet close enough to attract families who accidentally think this is another theme park. Founded in 1565 by Spanish explorer Pedro Menéndez de Avilés, St. Augustine predates the Pilgrims by more than 50 years. Over the centuries, the city has been invaded, burned, rebuilt, and passed around like a colonial hot potato. Without Henry Flagler, St. Augustine might have remained a sleepy town. His grand hotels and railroads turned it into an elite vacation destination for the rich and famous of the Gilded Age. Around 15,000 people actually live here, though on any given weekend, it feels like 150,000 thanks to an endless influx of visitors. Half of them are retirees who just love the history, and the other half are college students pretending they care about colonial architecture while really just searching for a good bar. Castillo de San Marcos is the crown jewel of St. Augustine. This massive stone fortress, built in the late 1600s, has walls that seem to be indestructible. Made of coquina, essentially ancient seashells glued together by nature, it absorbed enemy fire like a sponge. Today, it's a national monument where you can watch reenactors fire muskets and pretend Florida is still a battlefield. St. George Street is the overpriced pedestrian-only street. Want a $10 postcard? A pirate hat you'll never wear again? An alligator-shaped magnet? Congratulations, you're in the right place. It's chaotic and crowded, but somehow irresistible. St. Augustine is also a city of firsts. It is home to the first Catholic parish in America, the first wooden schoolhouse, and, allegedly, the first Thanksgiving. It's also considered one of the most haunted cities in America. Ghost tours are everywhere, and people swear the spirits of Spanish soldiers, pirates, and unlucky prisoners still roam the town. Florida is not exactly the land of natural wonders. There is just endless swampland that people have somehow convinced themselves is paradise. Tucked away in north-central Florida, just outside the city of Gainesville, Paynes Prairie is a bit of an enigma. It's not the kind of place you stumble upon accidentally. You have to want to go there. Covering over 21,000 acres, it is the largest state preserve in Florida. In the dry months, it's a golden sea of grass rippling in the wind. When the rains come, the water returns, swallowing the land and creating a shallow, shifting lake that turns sections of the prairie into a temporary wetland. There are bison in Florida. They shouldn't be here, but they are. A small herd of them roams the prairie, descendants of a group introduced decades ago in some bizarre conservation experiment. Alongside them, wild horses. Mustangs, technically, another relic of Spanish colonialism. If you like hiking, you're in luck. Paynes Prairie offers over 30 miles of trails ranging from short boardwalk strolls to longer treks through the wilderness. Jacksonville is the largest city by area in the contiguous United States. It's a behemoth stretching across 874 square miles of northeastern Florida, swallowing suburbs and beaches whole. It sits snugly along the St. Johns River, just shy of the Atlantic Ocean, refusing to be ignored. Before Jacksonville became the land of bridges and football despair, it was just a small town. Established in 1822, it was named after Andrew Jackson, who never actually set foot here. A Great Fire in 1901 nearly wiped the city off the map, and a mid-20th century attempt to become the Hollywood of the East didn't work. Today, Jacksonville stands as a business hub with a strong military presence and a massive port. The St. Johns River cuts through the city, giving Jacksonville some of the best waterfront views in Florida. The Riverwalk is great for a sunset stroll, assuming you don't mind the occasional whiff of something vaguely industrial. Downtown itself is a mixed bag. Some parts are sleek and modern, others feel like they're stuck in 1985. The Riverside and Avondale district is artsy and historic southern daydream with tree-lined streets, old mansions, and quirky cafes. Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, and Atlantic Beach are all within easy reach. They're not Miami-level glamorous, but they also don't feel like a tourist brochure threw up all over them. Surfing, fishing, and beach bars? Check. Tallahassee is the capital of Florida. The first time you hear that, you probably do a double take. Surely, the capital of a state as glamorous, flashy, and economically vital as Florida should be Miami, or Orlando, or literally any other city. But no, Tallahassee it is. A small, often overlooked, strangely significant city tucked into the Panhandle closer to Alabama than to any of Florida's postcard beaches. The Tallahassee International Airport is technically an international airport, but has exactly 0 direct international flights. Most people connect through Atlanta anyway. And driving? Well, it's a long, mostly uneventful journey through North Florida's pine forests and occasional billboards advertising boiled peanuts and obscure political candidates. Tallahassee's role as Florida's capital is the political equivalent of, well, I guess we have no better option. Back in the early 19th century, when Florida was still a territory, legislators from the two main population centers, St. Augustine in the east and Pensacola in the west, had a problem. The journey between their cities was too long and too miserable. Naturally, they decided to meet in the middle and build a new town. It was centrally located, had a slightly higher elevation, and wasn't already claimed by another city of note. And just like that, a capital was born. But how did Florida even end up in the United States? The short answer, nobody really wanted it except Andrew Jackson, and he wasn't exactly known for taking no for an answer. By the early 1800s, Spain was struggling to hold on to its empire, and Florida had become a lawless frontier full of pirates and Seminole warriors who weren't interested in giving up their land. In 1818, Jackson invaded Florida without official permission and started a personal war against the Seminoles and Spanish forces. Spain, dealing with revolutions across Latin America and realizing that Florida was more trouble than it was worth, agreed. In 1819, the Adams-Honest Treaty was signed, and in 1821, Florida became a U.S. territory. For the Spanish, it was like selling a house infested with termites and alligators, better to let someone else deal with it. The United States spent decades fighting the Seminole Wars. Finally, in 1845, after much debate, Florida became the 27th state. What's your favorite place in Florida? Leave a comment and let us know. If you love this video, hit the like button and subscribe to World Travel Guide.